Welcome to Fit to Speak. I'm Eugene Obah. So glad to have you with us. Well, folks, Halloween is upon us, and the media CEO and a couple of NFL coaches had already exhibited ghoulish behavior. Wait, sorry, one of them is still an NFL coach, at least for now, and the other has had plenty of time to perhaps enjoy multiple cauldrons of cotton candy rosé or this nearly $63 punch bowl. Anyway, with college continuing in the COVID era, I check in with Solomon Comissiong, the president of the University of Maryland Black Faculty and Staff Association, as well as the assistant director of public relations and student involvement at the Nyumburu Cultural Center. Let's begin. Earlier this month, the U.S. passed another grim milestone of 700,000 killed from the novel coronavirus. There's no doubt in my mind that we would have had nowhere near that figure had former U.S. President Donald Trump, who, by the way, actually caught COVID a year ago, actually had something resembling a plan. And just recently, former U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell died from complications pertaining to COVID-19. He was 84 years old and was fully vaccinated, and the COVID deniers and Fox were foaming at the mouth hearing about the fact that he was fully vaccinated because it seemingly adds to their narrative about the vaccine supposedly not working. But intelligent people like you and me know better, because what the deniers won't pay attention to is that he was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, a blood cancer which weakens the immune system. It's another reason that more of the public should be vaccinated, and let there be no question that those who are unvaccinated are 11 times more likely to die from COVID than those who are vaccinated, 4.5 times more likely to contract the virus, and 6 times more likely to test positive for the virus than those who are vaccinated. This map from the New York Times, which was tweeted out by CNN anchor Jim Acosta, shows the deaths that have occurred since 600,000 Americans were killed from COVID. You see all those states in the darker purple, especially in the southeastern part of the country. Almost all of them are run by Republican governors. Now, you might just think that, oh, I'm just making digs at Republicans, but let's just zoom in on that map some more, huh? Last time I checked, Maryland is run by a Republican governor. And that Republican governor, a certain Larry Hogan, has handled this pandemic better than every Republican governor, especially compared to the likes of Ron DeSantis, Brian Kemp, and Greg Abbott. Let's hope that the three of them will not come within sniffing distance of the Oval Office. What also cannot happen, folks, is us forgetting about the disappearance of Terrence Woods Jr., who was last seen working on a film shoot 3 years ago this month. The circumstances surrounding his disappearance are mysterious. This Vice article, along with this Deadline article, lays it all out, and we'll have links to them as we do with all of the articles that we cite in the YouTube description below. But at the time of his disappearance, there was no significant national attention to his case, whereas we have heard from just about every national media outlet about Gabby Petito's disappearance, which has turned into a homicide investigation. And earlier this month, it was determined by the coroner's office that her death was caused by strangulation. I want to read a few excerpts from this piece, which I think sums up everything nicely. Quote, I definitely don't want to downplay the tragedy of her murder, the very serious reality of intimate partner violence, or how ill-equipped the police are to deal with it. And it's not that I think we should pay less attention to Petito or that it's weird to become emotionally invested in this tragedy. But I keep getting stuck on how media outlets have framed Petito's disappearance and death almost like a monocultural story, not a piece of local news. The author goes on to point out that just over 543,000 people were missing in America in 2020, many of various backgrounds, and that none of them went viral like Gabby did. Given the discussion that we had on last month's edition of this program with Common Sense Entertainment creative director Raheem Dawodu Jr. about the census numbers and the demographic shifts of the United States, which I encourage you to revisit right here on this YouTube channel, the fact that there is very little focus on missing minorities, very little national attention on missing minorities is quite disturbing. I want to go ahead and put up that article one more time because I want to share one more excerpt here that lays out the media's complicity in this. Quote, but even as publications admit that they have a problem, as many have done, including the New York Times twice, CNN, Yahoo News, ABC News, MSNBC, Rolling Stone, the Boston Globe, Newsweek, NPR, Daily Dot, Pointer, USA Today, Vice, and the Los Angeles Times, among others. I don't see a lot of effort being made to change the way things currently work. These outlets, quite frankly, have very little incentive to change, and I'll explain why that's the case on our Instagram page at some point. But here's what I do know, folks. Somebody out there has to know where Terrence Woods is. Somebody out there, whether in Idaho or the production company that he works with, I don't know, but somebody's going to know where he is, and more attention has to be brought to his case. It really does, and I hope that somebody will reach out to us on our social media pages if you know any information about Terrence Woods, his disappearance, because this still sends chills down my spine 3 years later. And I'll tell you, while many of the outlets have chosen to move on from Terrence Woods and his disappearance, we won't. As the fall semester continues amid the continuing challenges of COVID, not to mention I'm sure by now, the challenges of midterms, I don't quite long for that aspect of college. I recently visited the Nyumburu Cultural Center at the University of Maryland, and it was there that I attended the first in-person meeting of the Black Male Initiative. The last time that I talked with Solomon, one of the things that he mentioned on the New Year's Eve edition of this program was that the entirety of the programs that the center held were virtual. What a difference a year makes. So, with that in mind, I first asked Solomon about what it was like to be back at the University of Maryland during this time, during this continued COVID era, and what the Black Male Initiative is all about.
And I can't speak, high enough, for the Black Male Initiative program. It's a program that was founded in 2005, to bring brothers together, undergrads, grad students, faculty, staff, and to just build, brotherly bonds and to talk about, our communities and then to brainstorm and talk about solutions, how we can come together and utilize our talents and resources to make meaningful impacts on our in our community, on campus and beyond. And this was our first in-person meeting since March of 2020. This pandemic changed things, and every subsequent meeting thereafter, between then and now has been online, virtually. So it was great to, it was a relatively, not used to it wasn't our normal large numbers, but we had a decent crowd in here, the conversation was invaluable. It was powerful. It was impactful, and met a lot of new brothers, and so I think it was a great success. Yeah.
With the fall semester now, this is now everybody's back in person. By the time we air this, it will have been 2 months since the semester started. In your observation, Solomon, how do you think the semester has been going, especially for minority students? And are there any concerns that you have as we progress through this fall semester?
Well, so far it's I guess it's the new normal, but so far, I don't want to say so good. There have been cases on campus, and it's just kind of different. Some programs are still virtually, but it's nice to be back on campus. I'm back on campus, back in my office. Had been away from my office for quite some time. Working virtually is I'm in one of those positions that enabled me to work from home, virtually. So it is nice to be back on campus, but it's a little bit different. Masks all over the place, so you don't really get a chance to see people's faces and so forth. Still, just dealing with I guess a world adjusting to quote unquote the new norm, and hopefully that we can go back to the old norm. Things will improve and vanguard for the better. But it's for what it's worth, it's okay, but it's at least getting a chance to actually be in front of students and be in front of colleagues, and to be at programs like we just had at BMI. In person. I take it as a small moral victory. Yeah,
Moral victory, huh?
yeah, moral victory. I think that's a good way to phrase things. It's not the same as it was before, but I'm optimistic that things will get back there eventually.
This year also marks the 50th anniversary of Nyumburu, and over this past month, the center has marked this incredible milestone. And you can find out more on the center's website at Nyumburu. That's nyumburu.umd.edu. Weaving in issues that have been in the news as of late, Salman spoke about what the next 50 years may look like for Nyumburu and what this milestone means to him.
Well, I'd be extremely honest. The 50th anniversary, I know it means a lot to, Dr. Ronald Ziegler and Ann Reese Carswell, who have been on this campus and who have been affiliated with Nyumburu as students, grad students, and as staffers in Nyumburu in some shape, form, or capacity for over 40 years. And so I know it means a lot to them because they have seen this, physical structure, this building, since it's been around since the late 90s. But Nyumburu itself as an institution has been around for 50 years now. And so even though I don't have the same tenure on this campus as they do, Nyumburu means a lot to me because it's a place where I have spent a large portion of the majority of my professional life. As an assistant director here. The next 50 years, just to say quickly, I'm not sure. Right now, we live in a country that there continues to be all types of attacks on Black people and people of color in general. Physical attacks, cultural attacks, psychological attacks on Black people to this day. And so there have been people who do not have our community's best interests in heart. I would say that there are foes to our community. Have found different ways, different and more innovative ways to attack our community than just to be out there, visually. They attack it through policies and things of that nature. We see critical race theory under attack, really, under attack as if it was some type of deadly plague. They're attacking, critical race theory. We see states like Arizona and Texas, literally having, textbooks rewritten to write out the struggles and the history of Black people and people of color in general, Native Americans and Latinos and Chicanos and so forth. And so when you think about all these things, Nyumburu is under attack too, and Black cultural centers have been under attack. We've seen Black cultural centers that have been whittled away, have been written out. We have seen Black cultural centers turned into multicultural centers. We've seen Black cultural centers and Africana studies departments and Black studies departments being literally written out of the campus fabric. These attacks, these surreptitious and dubious and duplicitous attacks are going on right now as we speak. So I hope that in the next 50 years that those who Nyumburu has impacted, the students, the alumni, will fight like the Dickens, the same way people fought to make sure that this building, there was a long, hard struggle for this building, people that fought for this building, for this space, but even before that, fought hard for a Nyumburu Cultural Center and Black cultural centers across the country. White folks didn't just say, hey, let's think it's a good idea, Billy, to build a Black cultural center. No, that didn't happen. It was Black folks, it was Black students and Black faculty, and that fought together and organized together to have Black cultural centers and Black studies departments and Africana studies departments erected, in the 60s and the 70s. And so I hope that as these attacks continue to be waged, that they fortify places like Nyumburu and Black cultural centers across the country, fortify them and insulate them. And whether it has to be sit-ins or whatever, we are not going to allow these radical right-wing attacks or these neoliberal attacks to actually find any type of comfortable situated space anywhere near this building. This is this institution. These cultural centers, these Black studies departments are going to continue to stay the way they are in perpetuity, and we're going to continue to build. So I hope that that's what happens, because those things are coming down the pike. We know that those attacks are coming down the pike, and they already have been. I mean, we've seen it on campus. This places on this campus, and offices on this campus have been attacking Nyumburu. I would say over the last decade, there have been murmurs and rumors and things of that nature. And I think very well validated, for folks trying to flip the script on Nyumburu and turn it into something that was never intended to be.
And that was Solomon Comissiong of the Nyumburu Cultural Center and the UMD Black Faculty and Staff Association. We thank him for joining us today. And later on, we're going to have an exclusive bonus segment with Solomon that will be available only on our Instagram page on IGTV. So I want you to follow us there. We are at CSE_media. But while you wait, here's a sneak peek.
We got to embrace the struggle, because struggle, as Frederick Douglass, to paraphrase Frederick Douglass, I mean, you can't expect there to be this sunshiny day and expect rainbows without a storm. Power concedes nothing without demand, and we not only have to embrace the struggle, but we also have to demand not just equality but equity. We have to demand self-determination. And right now in 2021, we do not, as Black people, as people of African ancestry in this country, and you could even look beyond, but since we're talking about this country, we do not have self-determination. When you have George Floyd's and you have Breonna Taylor's and Ahmaud Arbery's and all those that have even come after. I mean, there have been Black men and women who have been killed by the police since George Floyd, right? As long as you have those, as long as you have our communities that are continuing to be under attack, jump outs and inner cities and redlining, gentrification, it means that we don't have self-determination. Self-determination, that is what we want. We need self-determination.
Also, I want you to join us for our next episode on November 24th, Thanksgiving Eve here in the United States, where I will talk with Common Sense Entertainment Creative Director Raheem Dawodu Jr. about what we can do about gentrification in DC amid the census data. And I'll be coming to you from Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. I'll be examining the local economy there, and on the travel front, I'm going to see if my fellow travelers actually behave themselves or if people take the sin in Sin City literally.
Chill out.
It promises to be a high-rolling edition of Fit to Speak, so I hope you'll be able to join us. And thank you so much for watching. Listen, there's going to be a lot more where that came from, so you better stay tuned to catch it all. In the meantime, don't forget to follow us on all of our social media accounts for more information, including all of the bonus content you'll see from today's show. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell on our YouTube channel so that you do not miss any of our episodes. And until next time, I'm Eugene Obah, and remember, we will not be silenced, and screw Christopher Columbus.